A very good morning to all of you. Hope you have clearly understood the previous lesson of metals. Today we are going to start off with non-metals. Now, as the difference in the word, non-metals, that is, they are not metals. So obviously, we can understand that their properties are also kind of opposite to metals. Let's understand this topic as we go down the slides. The first one to begin with is, what are nonmetals? These are chemical elements that lack the characteristics of a metal. So what are the characteristics of a metal? Metals are hard, metals are sonorous, metals do not break or shatter, metals can be rolled into thin sheets, so they are malleable, metals can be drawn into thin wires, so they are ductile. So non-metals are not having these characteristics. Simple. Okay. The third is, there are some properties of the non-metals which are shared by most of them. Now I'm sure you are aware of this. All means every member will have this property. When I say most, means not all, but a vast majority of the non-metals will have this property. Let's go through these properties. They look dull. Now, anything that looks dull, that means obviously it will not reflect light. And you know, reflection happens best on a smooth surface. So if it doesn't reflect light, the surface is not smooth. Now, nonmetals exist as solids, liquids, and gases. If the nonmetals exist as solids, then they are brittle. Brittle is they will shatter. Most of them are non-conductors of heat. So, let's give an example here. When we use a cooking pot and we put the cooking pot on the gas, that cooking pot generally is made up of a metal. Reason? That metals are good conductors of heat, or they allow the heat to pass through the metal so that the food inside the pan gets cooked easily. On the other hand, most of the non-metals are non-conductors, so they will not allow the heat to pass through. Okay. The next property is that most of the non-metals are non-conductors of electricity. And how we have the aluminium wire, the copper wires used to conduct electricity. Here in case of non-metals, most of them are non-conductors of electricity. Now these were the properties of most of the non-metals. Now we'll just go through the properties of many non-metals. So they are not shared by most, but many of them have. What is it? That the non-metals are not very strong. The first thing that we studied about metals is that metals are very strong. But here, because they are not metals, so they are not very strong. Many of them are gases. And if the non-metals exist as a solid or a liquid, then they generally have low melting and boiling points. Obviously, low melting point would be for solids and low boiling point would be for liquids. Now, what's important here is, once we've understood these properties, is that the non-metals have a variety of uses in our lives. The first is the non-metal sulfur. Just look at the pictures which are there on page number 82, end of page 82 and the beginning of page 83. Please write important on all the pictures. The uses is very important. Now, rubber is widely used in our lives, and some rubbers are soft while some are hard. If the rubber that is to be used needs to be hardened, then they add sulfur to this rubber. The next nonmetal is pure oxygen. Now, pure oxygen is used in hospitals to treat people who have respiratory problems. One of them could be asthma, or it could be the COPD. COPD generally happens for smokers, and that is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So pulmonary means lungs, right? The lungs of the smokers, as you know, they get very non-spongy because the tar and the nicotine goes and accumulates in the lungs. So the lungs are supposed to be very spongy, but this is dampened because the person is smoking. So for such people, they use pure oxygen to treat them. Next is helium. Helium is used in balloons. We see the balloons that are generally released in the beginning of some functions, or maybe Olympics or any of these celebrations, and you see some balloons going high up in the air. These balloons are filled with helium gas. Number 4 is chlorine. Chlorine is used to kill bacteria. So it is also called as bactericidal. Cidal means anything that kills. In regular life, we use chlorine as Clorox. Okay, we use chlorine to kill the bacteria in maybe the swimming pools, in water tanks. Okay, sometimes it is added in drinking water when there is too much of mud or impurities coming along with the water that is coming to the tap. So they add more chlorine simply to ensure that the bacteria which could be harmful to us gets killed. The 5th one is carbon. Now carbon is used to purify water. There are many other uses today. Carbon they also use to, they have started using this scientific concept to make toothpastes where you have carbon, to make face washes where they have carbon, because there it adsorbs the impurities. Adsorbs means all the impurities get attached, not absorbed. I'm saying adsorb. So that's the basic function of carbon. The last of the non-metal is silicon. Silicon, all of you know that this is used to make computer chips. Well, it was a short lesson. Now, in the last slide, I've given you the homework. So it is questions 1, 2 and 3. You can just put a sticky note and just name the 5 non-metals. It's very simple. Question number 2 and question number 3 are very important right there. Now, the next one is, I want you to do some research about any 2 of the following non-metals. What do you have to find out? You have to find out the nature of these non-metals. You have to find out the properties and the uses of these non-metals. I have given you chlorine, silicon, oxygen, nitrogen, fluorine and helium. I want you to select your choice, any 2 from here. Check out the internet. You have lots of information there. Write it in a point-wise manner in your notebook. Now, as before, I have told you that all these slides, what you are seeing now, I want you to copy down these points in your notebook along with the date, because I'm noting the date, and once we are back to school, I will check it out. Okay? Thank you. Please let me know with your name. Message me if you have any problem in understanding any of the concept. Thank you. Have a great day.